Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Toon Review for tonight's show. Thank you very much for tuning in. Of course, Dan Ashworth looks like, well, pretty 99% certain that he will not be spending any more time at Newcastle United. So it's up to us fans to have a look around, take an in-depth view at certain ones, and have a discussion about others that might be in the frame to get the job. And of course, if you guys have any ideas in the chat who you'd like to see come in, then do put it in the chat, and we'll have a talk about it as well. But as usual, guys, if you do enjoy tonight's show, give it the thumbs up. Very important for the channel. And of course, if you're new and like what you see, click the bottom right-hand corner, click subscribe, come and be part of this incredible community right here on the Toon Review. You can become a member, of course, by clicking the join button just underneath the three of us. And of course, you can donate to the channel as usual, if you wish, by hitting that $sign. Which is just underneath the live comments, and that will guarantee your comment to be read out on the show. Good evening, fellas.
Good evening.
And how are we doing on this pleasant Wednesday eve?
Fine. Excellent.
Oh, it's all quiet on the Western Front at the moment, guys. I mean, normally there isn't a day goes by where there's big news to bring you about Newcastle United, and the Dan Ashworth thing, still rumbles on, but it's not as certainly pronounced as it has been over the last couple of days. So he's now, spending time growing his daisies and stuff like that. And obviously, Newcastle hierarchy Alex will be digging in, looking for somebody to replace him.
Yeah, well, I think Ratcliffe's comments today have definitely done Manchester United no favours. I think that will have, that there's a way to do business. Most people in business are quite egotistical anyway, and the last thing you want to do is rustle feathers.
Yeah,
and that definitely will have done that. If you're going to start doing that, it's very evident there's no niceties there. It was a lot of animosity. In my opinion, that's a declaration of war. Bring it on. Don't give them an inch. We've done quite well to make up a lot of ground. Let's not forget. I know we don't want to do the whole where we were a few years ago thing, but I think there's interesting context here. Where we actually were a few years ago versus where we are now. We're not that far away from Manchester United. Yep. I understand we haven't got the historical trophies and things like that, but I mean, in general, strength of squad, ambition, what we're kind of fighting for, position-wise, trophy-wise, we're there or thereabouts in the same place.
Yeah.
Which can't be very fun for them because it's taken us 2 years. It's taken them £1 billion in a decade to basically stagnate. So they are terrified and they're throwing different ideas at it. They're doing the right things, to be fair. But that is a declaration of war. And we've got to make sure we fight back.
What did he say, Sto?
Have you not seen the comments?
No, I've seen nothing.
Ooh, okay. I'll bring them up for you while Paul does Paul things.
I don't think you like them, Billy, to be honest.
You won't. You will hate it. You will hate this with a passion, Billy.
I mean, Don's put a comment there regarding, Radcliffe with a spoiled brat attitude and a total lack of respect for Newcastle can swivel. He seems to have come into Manchester United and taken over the Manchester United mantle of we're entitled to everything, you're entitled to nothing. We are Manchester United. We will control everything. We will do everything. You will do what we say. And I think it's a load of absolute bollocks. But there you go. Fabrizio, he said that it's a bit silly personally. I won't get dragged into that. What I do think is completely absurd is suggesting a man who was really good at his job sits in his garden for 1.5 years. It's absurd and stupid. So basically calling Newcastle United stupid, Billy. I mean, it is. Alex is right. It's kind of a declaration of war.
He's trying to be funny.
Yeah, but how many times do we see these Man United fans crop up on social media and say, oh, by the way, you're trying to force a rivalry again? All I've seen since this saga started is it all coming from Manchester United trying to wind the Newcastle fans up. So who's trying to create the rivalry here? And then you get Radcliffe spouting a load of crap like that, Billy.
Yeah, well, he's got a pretty poor sporting resume, hasn't he? As kind of team owner or club owner or whatever. Yeah. The Sky cycling team were all in the roost. They were winning every tour going. Tour de France's, Giro d'Italia's, La Vuelta, the Spaniards. He buys it, and since then I think they've won 2. And out of about 12. So, yeah, I mean, and his record at Nice isn't great either. So, I mean, if he wants to go to Manchester United and do to them what he's done to the rest of them, I'm all for it. And by playing these silly games, trying to create rivalries and war with other clubs, then you know, he's going to come crashing down on him with a great gusto, and we'll be there to applaud it and laugh our heads off, no doubt.
Well, he's clearly trying to wind the hierarchy up at Newcastle, like by those comments, by saying, you know, Newcastle would be stupid to keep him gardening for a year and a half.
It's just a joke, silly joke.
Yeah, but who is he to tell Newcastle United what to do? I think Radcliffe needs to realise that, you know, our owners are the richest owners in world football, right?
Oh, he doesn't care.
No, he doesn't.
That's
But that's the thing. He's going to have to, because Newcastle United aren't at liberty to do anything that Jim Radcliffe says. You know, they're not at liberty to do anything he says. And he's trying to wind Newcastle up. He's trying to force them into making decisions that they don't want to make. The fact is, if you want Dan Ashworth, and quite clearly you've wanted him from the start by all media accounts, then sod and pay the money or shut your stupid hole in your face.
Yeah, essentially.
It smacks to me, though. It even kind of used their kind of influence in the Premier League hierarchy to try and push something through. You wouldn't put anything past them, would you? I mean, without this idiot on board, you wouldn't put anything past them. Well,
I mean, Ian makes a good point there. Every sporting venue that Ineos have gone into has been worse since they took over. I mean, it's like you say, Billy, they don't have a great background. And quite frankly, if Jim Radcliffe's going to go around spouting bullshit like this all the time, he's not going to get anywhere. Because,
I mean, what happened to Red Bull when they started sponsoring the cars? Not Red Bull, Mercedes.
Mercedes? Well, look what's happened to them.
Since
backwards.
Red Bull's gone to the top of the table. It's just...
I don't think we need to get involved in any of this. It's just not necessary. I don't think we will anyway.
But we do in a way, Alex. I think because they're not going to be pushed around, and I think
I just mean
exactly
with the quote,
with
the publicity and the
absolutely,
the quotes. We don't need to be comedic and start. We don't need any of that.
No, they don't. The club don't need to do anything. Quite frankly, just keep the gob shut and manage Dan Ashworth how they want to manage him until Man United.
But we have had that. You know, we've had Mehrdad and Jamie Rubin with a few funny tweets in the past, which was fine. It was funny. It wasn't too far. Whereas I think this kind of stuff now is getting, you know, we're at the big boy table now. We've just got to make sure we save face. We don't give them an inch publicly. I think we'll keep our cards very close to our chest. I think we need to with this. Yeah. We need to set a precedent, and we're not going to get messed around. We talked about that whole concept of setting a precedent in the transfer market, in how we do business, in the league, in how we're treated on the pitch. And we need to do it in this regard as well, how we're treated off the pitch with staff and recruitment. We need to be consistent throughout. And we don't care. There's obviously, I'm really, really disappointed in the way the media have handled it as well, because it's very much a lot of the media have come out and said, oh, well, it would just be nice and fair to let him go. We assume it will be wrapped up quite nice and quickly.
Well, they're
very strange narrative that's getting pushed.
Man United.
Well, there's absolutely no reason we should be letting him go smoothly.
100%.
It's not. It's a business at the end of the day, and it's a very strange narrative. A lot of people come out and say, oh, there's no corruption, there's no narrative. Fine, I agree. I don't think there's any corruption. But in terms of the narrative, though, for everybody to consistently come out and go, there's no narrative, you're just not a Big Six fan, and it's all made up in your head. That's what we all get told. And then as soon as this comes out, all of the major media outlets are telling us we should let him go. It should be wrapped up quite quickly. We shouldn't stand in his way. It's a man who wants to do his job. That's come out of thin air, whereas when it's the other way around, they don't go those allowances, and it's completely ridiculous. It's outrageous, to be honest. It's the kind of thing that the Everton fans have had to put up with in the last 18 months. And as much as we don't particularly like Everton, we're all kind of in that same boat of Forest, Everton, us, Villa. We're all starting to get pushed around in every regard, in every aspect of the market and the way football works. And it has got to stop. It is a joke.
I think it's fair to say the club has dealt with it perfectly, though, so far. They have really
absolutely.
Getting on the whole thing, haven't they?
But you know, I mean, you talk about Radcliffe. He wants the public to pay for a new ground for Old Trafford for Man United. I mean, where is this guy coming from? What in his own mind thinks that taxpayers' money from all around the country will build a new stadium for Manchester United?
Not a chance.
Now, I know that the majority of their fan base live in London. That's not the point. We as Geordies or any other football fan across the UK is not going to turn around and say, that's not where I want my taxpayers' money to go to build a new stadium for Manchester. He's got an absolute nerve, Billy.
Well, there's two things I want to say about Jim Radcliffe. Firstly, the ground thing. what he's seen there is West Ham get a free ground, and he thinks they're entitled to the same, basically.
Yeah.
We know the West Ham thing was all done cloak and dagger and little hand-me-downs here and there. And the second thing was, as owner with Ineos, he campaigned for Brexit to his heart's content, and as soon as they voted for it, he moved his factory to France.
Yeah.
That tells you all you need to know about the bloke.
Absolutely.
He's an absolute arsehole.
To the Man United fans in the chat, by the way, you keep saying United. We're also United. There's a lot of.
I know there is a
I
know there is a Newcastle YouTuber who likes to call you guys United for some strange reason. Well, actually, it's not a strange reason. He's a closet red. However, United. If you're going to talk about your team, talk about Manchester United, and if you're going to say us, it's Newcastle United. We are two Uniteds. You are not the only United in the league. Now, if you want to be in this chat and have a very respectful and adult conversation about this situation, that's fine. But don't come on and try and wind us up because you'll just be removed. And, you know, at the end of the day, we welcome any opposition fans on as long as we get sensible conversation and obviously what the subject is. So, you know, there is more than one United, and we all know that. Newcastle get accused of being delusional. Ratcliffe is delusional. Troll says Ratcliffe doesn't realise PIF is 100 times better at doing business than him. I mean, Mr. Reactions there. Well, he's wound me right up. I've went on his page and told him to F off. To coin a phrase says, question, does his wage on gardening leave form part of our FFP issue? Or is it just players that it counts for?
I don't believe it comes as part of the FFP now.
I mean, that didn't get asked the other day, but we didn't quite know the answer to that. So I think we had
From what I've read, I don't think it comes from an FFP.
Yeah. Mike says, if they want Ashworth, it's simple, pay the asking price for me. Yeah, and look, we've heard a lot of, certainly I've seen a lot of opposition fans when I did that Dan Ashworth video yesterday. A lot of opposition fans coming in the chat and said, well, Newcastle did the same to Brighton.
We did the time. And then
we paid what they asked.
Yeah,
and we waited the gardening leave.
Yeah, exactly.
There was no big fuss made
very,
about
very
it.
different.
It was just business.
Yeah,
you know, it's what it is. What
we
it
did
is.
it properly. You know, he went on gardening leave, and we then paid the compensation when he finished his gardening leave period. So it's very, very different. And Manchester United, if you want to do the same as what we did with Brighton, you will have to wait. Simple as that. But it's not the same at all. It's very, very different. Geordie Dan says, let's see the Premier League change FFP once Ratcliffe whinges about it. Ruffyard Benisian says, Ratcliffe has to be careful. He has 7 billion being invested in Saudi chemical plant with Saudi oil. PIF is a major shareholder which could pull the plug. He knows he can only push so far. It is interesting. I don't think those two sides of the business would clash, to be honest. I think whatever going on separately from football will probably stay away from football, to be honest. But it is a point. You know, things like that can get in the way of things. But I think that, you know, professional business people, the way certainly these sides are who are involved in it, will probably keep football very, very separate from whatever's going on with an oil deal or whatever like that. But yeah, it's interesting. Mark down there on the south coast, good evening. Richard Hughes is leaving Bournemouth. Ed has worked with him before. I believe he speaks half a dozen languages and a lot of contacts in Europe and South America. Just before you comment on that, Alex, Kevin Greener, been a member for 9 months now. Thanks, Kev. Can't see Amanda giving anything to Man United, especially after the Lingard situation. That's a good point as well. I mean, obviously, the Lingard situation is still very... well, it's laughable, isn't it? I mean, obviously, we avoided... thank God we avoided Lingard, but 15 million quid for a player who was just falling away is insane. But what do you make about Mark's point, Alex?
I'm going to plead the fifth, even though I'm not American, and because we're going to do a show on each person. But that is very interesting, yes, and it's somebody we will be discussing. But
hang on, is that's news to me? So we're going to do a show on each possible person to come in, a more in-depth look.
Well, it wasn't the original intention, but after doing some research,
yeah,
Yeah, there's lots of info. So you know what I'm like with how detailed it is. So we might as well do it properly. There's no point in us just waffling about names like a lot of channels would do. No disrespect to any other channels. I'm not singling anyone out, but I'd rather we did it properly because the whole point is to inform you guys
in
watching
each one of them. Yeah,
exactly
who's possibly coming
what they
in.
are, who they are, what they're going to bring if we get them. So there's no point.
And I think the viewers would like that. You know, rather than just run 9 or 10 names off in one show, we can actually specifically look at different ones and see what they've done through their career. I think that's a very good idea, Alex. I don't often praise you, but well done on that one. So there you go, guys. You will be getting in-depth shows every now and again on possible DOFs coming into the football club. Yeah, I've seen that one as well, Tom. Another comment that Radcliffe made today saying Mason Greenwood should be going back to Man United. He wants to be very, very careful because I don't think there's a lot of Manchester United fans would probably agree with him. I know there's some idiots out there saying, "Oh, we love Mason Greenwood, etc." But I think 95% of that fan base are just not interested in him coming back at all. Up the Mag says Ashworth sitting where he always is in his garden because he always jumps ship. Toon Army Steve says, why not just make Stato happy and make Maxi the sporting director? Oh, Christ almighty. Let's not go there.
I don't think he should be a sporting director. I just think he's good as a winger. That's, it only goes that far.
Well, it's not the Maxi show. Asif says, a contract is a contract. Gardening leave is normal in quite a few jobs, especially high-profile board level. Don't understand why he is so shocked at this process. I don't think Dan Ash was shocked at the process. I think it's Radcliffe that just got... Yeah, I think he probably means Radcliffe, to be honest. He's trying to push Newcastle into a corner, and quite frankly, that isn't going to happen. Newcastle United will not be pushed into a corner. I think we've proved that since the new owners have come in. We will not get pushed around anymore. And, if they want to make a legitimate deal with us, then let's see what happens, Billy.
No, we're not going to get pushed around. I mean, you just don't push around people with that kind of power. And that's what they have. They have power in their own nation. And they have power in the business world. I mean, they've got a commodity that everyone needs, and they're the highest producer of it. So, they're not going to get pushed around by a tin pot football club. Let's be honest.
Yeah, I don't know who this Matt G is in the comments saying.
I've removed him anyway.
Yeah,
mods. If there's any Man United fans, give them a chance because they might actually. Because we're happy for decent discussions, but if they're just chatting nonsense, give them a couple of chances and then just drop the ban hammer because there's just no point.
We don't mind any opposition fans in. Just have a sensible conversation with us about it all. We got a £5 super chat from Case Ball. Thank you, Case Ball. Steve Nixon is the real talent spotter at Newcastle. Rinse them and move onwards and upwards. Great show, lads. Well, yeah. I mean, he has pulled the strings for quite a while, Billy, him. Yeah,
I think even since Graham Carr kind of left the ship, and I thought Graham Carr did a good job at times as well. So just he wasn't backed by the owner, and neither was Steve Nixon until these lot come along. Yeah, he's brought some wonderful talent to the club, hasn't he?
Yeah. Davey says Dan Ashworth wants to cheat, always a cheat. I think a lot of people are quite angry about the Tonali situation more than anything with Dan Ashworth, to be honest. But, that'll rumble on for quite some time. What happened with that whole deal? Who knew what about what? God only knows.
But you've got to be careful. At what point does it stop? Like, do you hire a private investigator for new signings? That starts to cross legal boundaries. Then the lines are a bit blurry. I feel like we probably did do due diligence. That's just a really dangerous topic. I agree with you. It's frustrating, but what resources would we have had to have used to have found that out? And would it have been legal? I don't think so. So I really think that's harsh to blame anyone in that transfer, to be fair.
Yeah. Abs, I'm a little staggered by this comment, to be honest. Forced into exile. I mean, he wasn't... look, yes, he was found not guilty. However, we've seen what we've seen.
Court. Hasn't been to court. She didn't press charge in the end, but we've all seen the pictures and we've all heard the tapes.
Yeah. Where's that come from, Abs? Come on. Let's all be sensible about this. We're not saying he hasn't been tried in a court of law. Therefore, he hasn't been found guilty of anything. But the evidence has been out there for many moons now. I wouldn't have him near the club at all because any man that puts his hand on a woman, whether guilty or not,
allegedly,
yes.
For legal reasons with the Toon reviews,
allegedly, is absolutely disgusting. and I wouldn't want him anywhere near the club.
I mean, what would you want to go back to the multimillionaire wife-beating rapist? You know,
allegedly. So there, Looney Tunes says Ratcliffe need him bad. Look at the crap they sign. We have all the time in the world to make them wait. I think, Alex, you made a good point a couple of days ago regarding, what would happen while Ashworth is currently on gardening leave. Does he have contact with Manchester United, or is there some sort of non-disclosure agreement in place at the moment regarding Newcastle plans? Because that probably would be the biggest worry of all to Newcastle's hierarchy, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it's a real tricky one. I don't think we want to take, I don't think we should even take any money from them, because I think it's just dangerous, because they know all the plans and everything. Even if we do take it, but there's a lot of people saying that he could just work anyway. Not in a legal capacity, no, he wouldn't be able to. Are there things he could possibly do discreetly? Mm-hmm. I would imagine so, discreetly, but it's a really fine line. It's very dodgy, and everybody involved has got to be very, very careful. Legally, no, he wouldn't be able to do anything, but did he do, and then the question's raised, did he do anything for us before he came in as well? Who knows? Do people like that do things prior to starting their job roles? I'm sure it happens, but I'd imagine on something as high profile as this, it would be very, very difficult. There might be people able to go and action plans without Ashworth actually being the guy behind it, but I don't know, tricky one. It's a very lots of legal conversations tonight. It's very, very dodgy.
No. I mean, look, as you say, we're just a fan channel who will talk about things as fans. That's how, whether we're in the pub or whether we're on a screen like this, we're talking as fans here. We're not talking about any legal profession or anything like that, claiming to know anything. We're just having discussions. That's all it is, and that's all it ever will be. We're not privy to what the law states or what goes on behind the scenes. We're just talking about it as fans.
I mean, personally, look, I get it. I understand what Manchester United is. I understand that. However, you shouldn't have signed a contract with us of that length. If you had ambitions to go to a different club like that, of that caliber, you should not have committed that much.
Yeah,
you just shouldn't have done it. I understand the allure. If you've got no connection to this club or to any club, I get that. If you want to go and work for a Barcelona or a Manchester United, I understand. But you've made that commitment now. I think it's quite snaky. Just try. I feel like that's. I don't normally say things like that, but I think it is. And personally, he's made the decision himself. He's a big guy. He's a grown adult. He's made that decision. And I'd pop him in a small room with a laptop with no internet, with a bit of ventilation. You grab him a meal deal every lunchtime, and I'd make him sit there for the next 20 months.
I thought you were going to say I would lock him in a small room with a couple of Rottweilers.
No, you'd give him enough comfort to make it bearable and legal, and you make him sit there for 20 months.
Yeah,
with no internet connection.
What happens, Billy, if the deal doesn't happen? What happens to Ashworth then?
I think the legal term is he's pissed on his chips, because there's no way we'd have him back. Absolutely no way whatsoever. Yeah, I
agree. Fully agree. Anyway, the first guy we're going to look at tonight, Alex, who is a possible replacement for Mr. Ashworth. Are you ready for me to put the screen up?
I am indeed.
I'm looking at the football. Oh, that's him, isn't it?
This is
exactly. Him. Yeah, yes. Here we go. So this is the first in our list of possible replacements for Dan Ashworth, who we're covering tonight, and it is
Paul Mitchell.
No. Oh well, Alex has just given it away, but there you go.
Right. So this is a biggie. This is a biggie because unfortunately we can't get away from talking about Manchester United at the moment. He's been heavily linked with them. He's not been in a job since 2023 when he left Monaco mutually. He was rumoured to be going there. There are rumours that it's meant to be a Dan Ashworth sporting director and a Paul Mitchell head of recruitment super team, which would actually, in my opinion, be quite frightening because I think that's really good. So we don't want that because that's really bad. We don't want Manchester United being good. However, Paul Mitchell Who is he? So he's only 42 years old. So he's actually, considering what he's achieved in his career so far, we need to get rolling. Anybody who's under 42, because he's done a lot. So he started at McDongs, which we will overlook because I don't like McDongs, being from the Midlands. So McDongs, he had to retire at 27. Unfortunately, he had 2 years out. Really struggled. Couldn't get back into playing professionally, unfortunately. And then, he eventually, I think it's 2010, Milton Keynes set up their recruitment division, and he was asked to be the head of it. So he started by being a head of recruitment. That was how he started. So here he is with his little pretty close-up face. So at McDongs,
did the decent thing, realised he was losing his hair, and he's done what me and Billy have done. Just
exactly.
Much better. Absolutely.
So early doors at McDongs, he brought in Alan Smith when he left us. But for the level they were playing at, that was an outrageous signing. He was decent at that level. They also brought in loans like Patrick Bamford at the time. So for that level, it was really, really good, decent recruitments. And he very quickly got picked up by Southampton, which a lot of people know him for. So the Southampton days were very, very impressive. So he joined them when they were in the championship season. They got promoted the same year he joined, and he was responsible for bringing Yoshida, the Japanese player, Stephen Davis, and Nathaniel Klein, who all went on to get sort of moves or, were much higher valued players than that and were very, very decent. Premier League quality players. Just so we can actually go through what he did at Southampton, you've got Yoshida is on this list, Klein, Lovran, you've got Tadic, Alderweireld, you've got Mane. So the players he was responsible for bringing in at Southampton was pretty outrageous, to be fair. So Poch left. So they had Poch for a time. Poch left, and then it was Koeman in for a season. Paul Mitchell stayed there for that year when Koeman was in, and they actually finished 7th. So the team that he'd helped build and the recruitment really, really assisted in just having a decent quality squad. So they did okay. But then obviously pretty soon after that, he went to Spurs. He did go with Poch. So he went to Spurs. November of 2014, he went to Spurs. Again, head of recruitment. So by this point in his career at 2014, he's only ever been a head of recruitment. So very much a Steve Nixon kind of guy at this point. So just about talent spotting, essentially. So head of recruitment at Spurs, the first thing he did was basically pick up Dele Alli for 5 mil, which, regardless of how the back end of his career has gone so far, Dele Alli, the start of it was outrageous. Spurs were amazing in the league. The partnership with Kane was disgusting. They got through to a Champions League final based on all of this that was developed. So that was amazing from him. He also brought in Kieran Trippier, Alderweireld permanently, Victor Wanyama, Heung-min Son. And he actually got a lot of pushback for bringing in Son originally as well. There was a lot of criticism against Paul Mitchell in a lot of his early recruitments, and he was very much believed in himself. And obviously Son went on to get a joint Golden Boot a few years ago with 23 goals joint with Mo Salah. So really, really, really impressive. So he then, after that, so I've got a quote from David Webb, who was the head of elite potential identification at Spurs, whatever that is. So he said recruitment is one of his strongest areas. His main background. He's very modern in his approach and forward thinking. He's data informed, not data led. So in all my research on him, that phrase keeps coming up. He's data informed, not data led. So he's very much into using a combination of statistics, data, but opinions, logic, the attitude of the player. He looks at the whole package essentially, which is really cool. It's kind of how we've recruited to a point. We wanted people with the right attitudes to mold, but also the right ability.
Yeah.
Do you want to do some comments before we move on? Because there is more.
Yeah.
How are we feeling so far?
Well, I listen. I mean, Billy, what do you reckon? Because the guy's done a lot in a short space of time as well.
Well, it's a fair list of talent that he's brought in just for Southampton and Spurs alone, really, isn't it? Some of those players that have moved on for multi-million-pound fees. The Mahrez. Did he bring Van Dijk in as well, Stato? Was that one of his?
I don't think so.
Mane,
Van Dijk was
Mane was, yeah.
Yeah, I mean they're just incredible sales, weren't they? They went for a lot of money. Certainly, Mane did, and then to go in at Spurs, pick up Dele Alli, as you quite rightly said, was a world beater for 4 or 5 years, and it's only been post 2018 since the World Cup that he's kind of gone down only a bit. And Son, of course, spot him, fantastic spot. So yeah, he's definitely got an eye for a decent player, that's for certain.
And I like the quote, that you just mentioned, Alex, that you keep, reading when you're doing research on him. And it seems like he's very focused on, recruitment and making sure that they are the right players for that particular football club. Because if you look at the clubs he's been at and you look at the players that he's brought into those clubs,
the CV gets a lot better, I can assure you. This is just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, but what I mean by that is they're all players who suit that football club. You see what I mean? That you look at Mane. He suited Southampton at the time, and he's gone on obviously better things. But you look at Son. Son's come in, very much suits Tottenham. There's players there that you mentioned who have been very suited to that particular football club, which would excite me if he came to Newcastle, because I think he can identify what sort of player Newcastle need from what he's done in a very short space of time.
Yeah, agreed. He profiles very young players, typically under the age of 23, with attacking intent is normally the feature. Athletic, intelligent, decent attitudes. It's exactly what we need. I mean, look at the player recruitment we've done recently with your Tonali's, and now I just can't think of any other players. Isak's. We're trying to look at Botman's as well. We've gone for that 22, 23. Not quite yet world class, but there's definitely the potential for them to be at least Champions League quality. It's that kind of bracket. You can even go a step down on that, like Anthony Gordon. I think was probably a level under the recruitment of like a Botman, Isak, Tonali. He was like one step down, but still got the potential to go that far. So it's we've still recruited similarly anyway, because our recruitment network's really good. And I think Ashworth does deserve some credit for setting up a lot of what we do. He's not been directly involved in it, but Paul Mitchell's very, very, I'd say a lot more into the recruitment side of it than he is just the general running of stuff.
To be honest, Abs, I think you need to look into the sporting director role, because I don't think you quite know how important they are. Is it some glorified scout with contacts with agents? Players surely don't give a toss who the sporting director is when they join a football club.
Well, you've got to remember, especially with this one we're talking about, Dan Ashworth, he was the head of the football for England. So it wasn't just a case of spotting talent. The manager's that for England. So it's obviously a much deeper role than just going out and spotting talent.
Yeah, respectfully, Abs. I mean, just because you don't understand it doesn't mean it's true. The fact that all the biggest clubs use one would kind of argue against your point. Respectfully, it works. They
do an awful lot for a football club. I mean, Dan Ashworth did a lot. Let's not forget, I know we're a little pissed with Dan Ashworth, but he did a great job at Brighton. Some of the talent he brought in, and Brighton have managed to keep that going since he's gone, and still bring in the good players. But there is probably 30, 40 Dan Ashworths out there in the world who are very, very good at their job. And there's people better than Dan Ashworth. And that's why we're taking a look at some of the potentials that could come to Newcastle as director of football and improve us greatly, more than what Ashworth has done. And for me, Ashworth hasn't been here long enough to do anything.
I think he's done stuff. He's done it. I mean,
yeah, but what I'm saying is that he hasn't done enough for a legacy, Alex, to say, not
a legacy, but he's definitely helped initiate stuff. I mean, Niall just hit the nail on the head there. Yeah. He brought in 17 staff and multiple, younger players. He's definitely started that web and recruited different systems and started implementing the vision. We might not.
It's annoying that he doesn't want to see the job through. That's what I think people are annoyed at.
Completely agree.
Yeah. Right. Do you want to continue on with this man?
Yeah, sure. And Abs has said she was just asking a question. Okay, then my apologies, Abs. I didn't realise. So he's moving on from Spurs. He did have a bit of a fallout with Daniel Levy. I mean, it was reported that he was very much the communicator, the mediator between Pochettino and Daniel Levy. And it was a lot of friction there. He ended up doing sort of 16 months not really doing anything because a 16-month notice period, and it didn't work. Then 2018, he was linked with a move to Man United, which never materialized into anything, because he does actually live in Manchester somewhere. It is in, I'll tell you, Stalybridge, which is in Manchester. So, boo. Hopefully he doesn't like them. So, next job. So, this is much better for the CV. RB Leipzig. He gets picked up to be the head of recruitment for Leipzig. Massive. Well, it's a huge
and let's just say that Leipzig may not be like the Bayern Munich and Dortmunds of the world, but it's part of the Red Bull family, and that's massive. So I think that's what you're getting at, Alex, is the fact that
it progresses to that.
Exactly, yeah.
So he started off at specifically Leipzig, so he became the head of recruitment. He was there for about 18 months, and he recruited Mateusz Cunha when he was 20 years old, who was at Wolves. Nordi Mukiele, who was 21 at the time, Sarachi, 21, Tyler Adams, 20, Amadou Haidara, who was about 21, Christopher Nkunku, who was 22, Lookman, 22, Dani Olmo, 22. So that is a list and a half, that is. And it was so impressive. They actually finished third in that season. They finished third in his only full season with Leipzig. He was then promoted to work within the whole Red Bull group, all of them. And then he took a step up from just being head of recruitment, and he became, I'm about to use a word I don't like, so I apologize. He became the technical director of Red Bull's global soccer operation. So that was what he was when he got the promotion. And then he was in charge of, other teams like New York Red Bulls. You've also got Bragantino, the Red Bull team in Brazil. So there's a lot of moving parts in there. So it suddenly escalated into global, not just European. It was everywhere. So that was where it really, really took off, and it started to snowball career-wise. And that was the legacy. And then there is another move after that. It gets even better. So we'll let you.
Yeah, we'll take a few comments, and then we'll go back to him. But I mean, Billy, bring this guy in now. It's not the rest of the shorts.
Yeah, I am kind of perturbed by the fact that Manchester United won him as well to kind of make a super team with Dan Ashworth. And will that be in his reasoning if we ever did approach him? I don't know, but yeah, he's got the qualifications for certain.
Yeah. Kev says, I detest what Ashworth has done, but he's definitely in the top 5 DOFs in world football. He is held in very high esteem in football circles. Dark by Design says, Nice are third in the league. He also owns, or did own, a club in Switzerland, I think. There was a few mentioned that people have thought that he had something to do with Basel. And he didn't. They've had a horrendous downfall in over the years. I remember Basel used to. Do you remember when they were like fighting in the Champions League and stuff? And then they've just had a massive fall from grace. Stunt Peg, actually, who I watch a lot on YouTube, she's just done a little bit about them and their fall from grace.
I never used to like her, and now I absolutely love her. I love her content. I love that she's highlighting a lot of lower league teams, and she's really interesting content. She's doing a great job.
Did a real good piece on Fulham the other week as well. Sorry, not Fulham, Oldham. And their fall from grace. And
I've completely U-turned. I think she's brilliant.
She's been up to Darlington as well, did a piece on them. I used to go and watch Darlington a lot when George Reynolds was in charge before the move to the new stadium. For Newcastle away, I used to go and watch Darlington a lot. And their fall from grace. So, it's nice. You just highlighted Berry as well. So, yeah, if you haven't checked her out, go and check out Stunt Peg. She's really knowledgeable as well. Really good channel. Indigo figures says Stalybridge is in the Greater Manchester area, but it is a town of its own right. Yeah, well, so's Altrincham, etc., and Bury, and they're all classed as Greater Manchester. Dave Bullman, member for 18 months now. Thank you very much for your support, Dave. Phil Giles is a perfect fit from Brentford and a Newcastle fan. Listen to him when on the High Performance podcast. Impressive guy to listen to. I don't know if he's on Alex's list.
Well, I mean, there's a few good shouts. Yeah, Giles. I mean, Foxy's just mentioned Florian Maurice as well. All people that are on the list. Foxy, feel free to give us a ping in the Discord or on Twitter, by the way, because you might be useful in putting some of these shows together.
Yeah. Dev, really good question, this. Do you think that they will use the same theme with the DOF as they do when bringing in new players, i.e. they will have to have the right personality and fit the project and have that relationship, etc.? Interesting one.
100%. Yeah, I would think so.
Because you had a feeling, Billy, that things hadn't been too right between Howe and Ashworth for a little while.
For a while, yeah. It just seemed, the Lewis Hall thing brought up for me.
Yeah.
Whether I'm right or wrong, I don't know. But it just seemed to me like Eddie Howe leaving him out was because he wasn't an Eddie Howe signing. I'm not certain. I'm just prophesying here, but that's what it seems like to me.
Yeah. Jexall says, Paul, really liked your show the other day about Ashworth, and Alex, really good insight into potential replacements here. Well done. Thank you very much. Trolls, member for 2 years and 1 month. Thank you, Trolls. Massive part of the channel. Just hope we stay away from Bournemouth DOF. That would be a step backwards, in my opinion. Andy Ford says, if someone said at the beginning of the season they'd give you 20 million for Ashworth, would you have taken it? I know I would, same as we got for Maxi. Look, at the end of the day, I'm not really that upset about Ashworth going. I think there's other DOFs who we're highlighting one tonight, and we'll highlight some more in the future. It's the way it's been done. Just nothing's been right for a few weeks. We've gone through the transfer window, this winter transfer window, and nothing happening. And you start to ask questions. Billy, has that interfered with our transfer plans for the window just gone?
Well, they've basically done a recruitment campaign through the media, haven't they?
Yeah.
Unsettled him. Now, they must have approached him to say, we want you, otherwise he wouldn't have left his job, would he? So, he wants to go to Manchester United. They must have approached him out, without approaching us first.
Yeah.
So it's all been done a bit cloak and dagger, which in business is obviously done, but it doesn't sit well with me, I must be honest, especially in football where it's supposed to be, pretty transparent.
Yeah, absolutely. Steve says, if the deal falls through for Ashworth, how would that affect FFP? If we want to keep him on garden leave and bring someone else in? Well, Billy mentioned that before. I don't know.
If it does, it's 28 grand a week, works out to about 3 million quid. So, I don't know.
Yeah. J-Law says, anyone know why this channel doesn't put podcasts onto Spotify anymore? Well, J-Lo, I will answer that for you right now. It's because I haven't had a chance to, mate. As people well know, I've had a lot going on behind the scenes in my private life with my daughter being so unwell and myself. It takes a lot of time. And, when we've got Patreon, which, people pay for, people are members of Patreon. I never know what Billy does when he does that. I'm thinking
Liverpool 0, Luton 1.
What?
Liverpool 0, Luton 1. Ogbenny.
Wow.
Ogbenny must have skinned the left back and scored.
Well, there you go. Yeah. So yeah, J-Lo, we've got paying people coming for Patreon. They're going to be patrons that can support the channel that way. The link, by the way, for Patreon is in the description if you want to go and have a look. But I will start to do it again. Once I'm getting a little bit better now and I've got a bit more time to do it. It's just we're setting up live shows, recorded shows, Patreon shows. There's a lot of prep goes into the shows as well behind the scenes. Alex does a lot of research. Billy does research. I obviously have to set all the shows up and do my own research as well. So getting, what the highlight of the shows are going to be, and a sort of, we're not scripted or anything like that, but I have to sort of, push the show through in a certain way to make sure we cover all the points that we want to. So it's very difficult, to be honest, but we will get there. They will appear. And J-Lo, I'll put this one on tonight for you, mate. Don't worry. And then we'll continue to do it as much as I can. Right, Alex, do you want to finish off with the rest of the story regarding this guy?
Yeah, so after he left the Red Bull group, so June 2020 was the start of his Monaco adventure. Of course, Monaco got promoted quite a few years ago, started bullying PSG and winning Ligue 1 titles, and then it kind of just died a bit of a death, and PSG just started to dominate. So this guy comes in 2020, Paul Mitchell, technical director of Monaco, rebuilding the sports project as a whole. So he was in charge of more than just the recruitment. He essentially came in and did an entire audit of the club. He had to cut the squad size down. So when he arrived, the squad size was 77, which was rather bloated, and he cut it down to 39.
From 77?
from 77 to 39. So a lot of the time we talk on this channel about being a little bit more ruthless, slightly less emotionally attached. It's a numbers game at the end of the day, as harsh as that
Absolutely.
is. However, it's a difficult thing because we do have emotional attachments to players, and there is a bit more of an emotional culture with our club. But yeah, so there was a lot more of a focus on youth development. So the season prior to his arrival, there was 1,421 minutes given to academy players, and then the season he arrived, there was then 3,654 minutes given to academy players. So he'd got, when he arrived, you'd got Benoit Badiashile and Chouameni sat on the bench, who were kind of substitutes on the periphery. And if he'd have recruited over the top of them, or if they'd have continued to recruit over the top of those talents, Chouameni might have never developed. And now he's at Madrid, and he's one of the best players in the world. He scored against England in the World Cup. He's outrageous. So it's the kind of development that can get blocked if you don't get it right. So he had 3 seasons at the club. So the percentage of first team made up by academy graduates.
Sorry to interrupt you there. Kev's just asking a quick question. Be part of this. Why did he leave all these clubs? Was he sacked, or did he just simply move on to
a lot of the time he moved on, mutual agreement. Right. So he left Southampton because he wanted to join Spurs. Most of the time he was just sort of headhunted. He fell out with Daniel Levy, which I think everybody does. So I don't really hold that one against him. Yeah. He left the Red Bull project mutually and went to Monaco, and then he left Monaco mutually after a few years as well. So it was all mutual. It wasn't that anything had gone wrong. He's left them in a very, very good condition. So there was only one negative one as far as I'm aware, and that's because there was just an issue between him and Daniel Levy, which is pretty common, isn't it? But yeah, anyway, the next bit. So the percentage of the first team made up of academy graduates in his first season was 70%, and then in season 2 and 3 it was up to 25%. He actually decreased the average age of the squad every season, and when he left it was 24.7. It was one of the youngest squads in Europe. He recruited Crepin Diatta, 21, Myron Baldo, who was 20, Mo Kamara, Ismail Jacobs, Vanderson, Folarin Balogun, who we know, of course, defected to the US, unfortunately, Wilfred Singo, 22. So all of the recruitment there was all sort of 23 years old or younger. He's also got the likes of your Minaminos in there, your Embolos. So you've got other players that he's recruited. So there's some really, really interesting ones. So this is a great stat. I love this because of how much better Monaco are as a club on the pitch and off the pitch. So for the 3 years before he was recruited, Monaco made 37 signings totaling 468 million euros. And then for the 3 seasons they had him, they signed 13 players at 141 million euros. So that was 3 times less, and they are far better off for it because they recruited a lot more carefully and they promoted youth as well. So he's got them in a much, much better condition, spending far less money. And not that we would need to do that in our capacity. It would be a lot more Moneyball with a lot more money. So it would be it'd be a big, big difference. Yeah. So he did an interview when he was at Monaco. Right, I think it was just when he left. So he said, so at the time of this interview, Monaco were the second youngest team in Ligue 1, one of the youngest in Europe. So he said that transfers are often reactional and emotional. It has to be a more premeditated than that. There's got to be a global strategy when signing players, not only looking at it in isolation. You have to think long, medium, and short term. If investments are made badly, it can halt progress. And yeah, that was it. So he actually went on to speak a little bit about the Son transfer, and that there was a lot of narratives that grew around internally as well. But yeah, and that is him today. He left in 2023. He's returned to England. He's in England right now. A lot of rumours about Manchester United. However, this is a guy who's gone from player to head of recruitment at sort of a lower league, sort of, your national leagues, League Twos, that kind of level. And then he's just grown. He's done his recruitment.
Yeah, he's done his time.
He's gone from sort of lower league England to top level England to European to then global. And then he's gone in at Monaco and he's tried to oversee the whole lot, technical project. general running of the club. So he's done a bit of all of it, really.
Foxy's made a good point there. Paul Mitchell, he took over from Michael Amano at Monaco, who left the club in an absolute farce, and he steadied the ship again and got everything ticking over again. Dylan, thanks for your super chat. He says, I just hope whoever gets the job emphasizes the academy. I think that'll be a big part, to be honest. I mean, Billy, we're getting a lot of comments in saying, first one up and we're sold already. I mean, Stato, if you were this guy's agent, I think you'd have sold him anyway. So I'm really impressed with what I've seen, Billy. This guy can clearly do the job.
Yeah, and I think it's a natural progression for him as well. I think it's, I think for these kind of people, you've got to have projects that, make them feel like they want to do them, to enthuse them. And I think ours is for a director of football because, we've got massive investment hopefully coming in. We want to be winning things and we haven't won things for a while. So
yeah,
someone coming into that ilk has a massive challenge ahead. But I think that's what these people go for, rather not just the money side of it. It's obviously the money side of it is important, but I think the challenge of doing something for a club that, is expected to do something, hasn't done something for a while, I think it's a massive pull. I'll be honest.
Yeah. Let us know in the chat. Are you? Would you like to see this guy? What's your opinion? Let's have a look where people are.
Well, if anybody wants to see his CV officially as well, it's there. Oh,
I mean,
so that's according to Transfermarkt.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, he's done his due. He's worked up the ranks. Interesting to see he had a bit of time at New York Red Bulls as well. So he was definitely part of the Red Bull family.
It was all part of when he was, because obviously he took that new role and he was in charge of everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Dylan says, let's just appoint you three. Feel like you'd do wonders. Oh, we'd love it. We'd love it. Yeah. Alex could do the, honestly, Alex should probably do the negotiations. I would sort out the admin side of it and interviews, etc. And then Billy could sort out the areas to eat around Newcastle. So, the three of us could do a tremendous job, I think.
Proper technical stuff, that, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, hey, that's a big part of it. The nightlife and the...
Hey, we could charge half of what Dan Ashworth does. There's three of us.
Well, yeah, exactly. But a lot of people are liking this guy, to be honest. Do we need to do another show? I mean, let's just go and get this guy. And he's free. He's available now, isn't he, Alex? He's not tied to any job at the moment.
Yeah, I don't think he's working anywhere. He came back to England. He's in Stalybridge at the moment. I don't think he's doing anything.
Actually, to be fair, Billy, with your historical knowledge, we basically put you in front of him to bring him up to speed with the history of Newcastle United. Because.
We did that with Howe, didn't we? When he came in, I think we did a lot of teaching of.
Billy did that, did he?
History. No, just the club.
That quiet, Trey.
Well, I think the fact he hasn't got a job is a massive plus because, I mean,
yeah, it is.
If we want to keep Dan Ashworth on garden leave and then have someone else as well, then maybe you are, venturing into FFP territory. But I don't think we would be if we've just got the one employed and, we haven't got plenty of compensation or anything. So.
Dylan's sort of coming at another angle, saying if he's out of work, does that not say something though? No one's really jumping the bit together.
Well, yeah, but you don't know that, and he's also at that level where if the phone doesn't ring for, in those sort of assassin movies where they look at their text and it's a low value, they're like, no, I'll just go back to sleep. It's that kind of thing. Unless the phone rings from somebody worth, he ain't picking up. Like he's at that level now where if you get calls from, I was going to list off a few clubs. I was going to say things like Freiburg's, Hoffenheim's, Stade Rennais, but he's not going to answer those calls, is he? It's just not going to happen. So he's basically put.
He's one of the big dogs in the DOF world now.
Yeah, he's put himself into that bracket where he's only going to answer the call of 10 to 20 clubs globally.
What kind of wages do these guys look at, Alex? For this kind of
Dan
level of
Ashworth on
director of football.
28 per week. I mean, I'm guessing it's kind of similar to what a player would get nowadays.
Yeah.
Not as much as the big players, but we've got a lot of players on 30 to 35, 40,000 a week. So if the rumoured 28,000 for Ashworth a week is true, then it's vaguely similar to sort of a Ryan Fraser, Matt Ritchie kind of wage, isn't it? So let's just get Ryan Fraser off the books, and we can hire a new director of football.
Well, did you see he scored an identical goal to Bruno the other day?
I did see that, and I absolutely don't care. Please buy him.
Well, I'm just making the point that that's.
No, I agree.
I'm trying to sell him to Southampton.
It didn't require him doing any running, really. He just lost the defender around the back of the set piece.
It was a very good finish, though, to be fair. Yeah,
we need to clip it. Well, actually, no, because we want them to buy him. But
listen, when you're not as quick as Jack Colback, you know that you are not.
Yeah,
quick.
I really want to go. I want somebody. Please, can somebody find me that clip of him losing that foot race to Jack Colback? Because I was there live, but I've never seen a clip of it. And it was towards the end of the game. A fresh Ryan Fraser comes on and loses a foot race to a tired Jack Colback. It was awful. And Ryan Fraser was 27 at that point.
Yeah,
God, that was unacceptable.
I actually said at the time doing the live commentary that Christ Almighty, Jack Colback just out sprinted a fresh Ryan Fraser after being on the pitch for 85 minutes. Yeah. Couldn't believe it.
Of course, Jack Colback now links up with Isaac Hayden again at Queen's Park Rangers. Of course, Jeff Hendrick is out of contract in the summer, so that frees up the wages of Jeff Hendrick as well. But obviously, I think they'll obviously not want to pay through the mill for anybody because they know that the playing side of it needs such a change up. But it depends on the FFP situation.
Nope.
But what I'm saying, Alex, is I don't think it matters with FFP though. It wouldn't matter.
Yeah, but I don't think it matters in the summer anyway. I think we're going to get a lot sort of in terms of fresh sponsorship opportunities, some decent wages off the books. So I think there's a little bit more wiggle room. If we've got to sacrifice one transfer to get an amazing scouting team and technical director in, hell yeah, do that. Yep. That's important.
Interesting. So we're all a yes on this guy. So I mean,
there's a lot more. There's a lot more shows to do because there's 7 or 8 more names in the hat that are reasonably decent. So
well, it's interesting because by the time we do the shows, we've mentioned a good few of them. We'll get a poll going as to seeing where we stand. We'll maybe have 2 semi-finals and a final. See who people. The viewers have certainly talked to. But this guy
apparently he can't work because his contract officially ends then. Maybe he's got to serve. Yeah. Maybe he just can't work yet after leaving. Yeah, that's a good point. Possible.
If he's on gardening leave, I mean, there you go. I mean, it's a popular thing with these DUFs these days is gardening leave.
So, if anybody else does the Paul Mitchell show in the next 2 days, just go in the comments and just type in #TTR because we did Paul Mitchell.
Yeah, there is a lot of copying going on out there, guys. Unfortunately, shows after show, we find that we are coming up with all the ideas, and not everybody, by the way. All of them, but there's just certain channels seem to drop in every now and again, see what we're doing, and then do this exactly the same show. Again, obviously, we are the best, and the rest will follow and try and follow. But just the way it is at the minute. But like I say, we will do quite a few of these and bring you up to date with anybody who may or may not be coming into the club. But that is it. We are back live tomorrow night again at 7 o'clock with, of course, the Arsenal preview. Really looking forward to that one because, does Eddie go 5 at the back? Do we change it? Obviously, we'll have a good look at that tomorrow, see who might be involved or not involved. There may be a video if there's any news to bring you tomorrow, but I am live again at 11 o'clock on Friday morning with the press conference review. We'll have a look at that, see what Eddie's had to say in that. So I will be live at 11 o'clock on that. Face the Lads will be here this week at 7 o'clock on Friday. Your chance to come on and get in our ear, see what you think of what's going on at Newcastle United at the moment. And then, of course, me and Billy will be with you on Saturday evening at 7:30 for an 8 o'clock kickoff on Matchday Live, bringing you all the action from the Emirates. So plenty to come on the channel. So if you have enjoyed tonight's show, guys, please do hit the thumbs up button. And if you're new, please do subscribe. If you're watching this on a rerun, etc., come and be part of this incredible community here on the Toon Review. And of course, don't forget to hit the notification bell, which will let you know when we're live or schedule a live show or we upload any future videos. Thank you for your super chats and your memberships. And of course, a big thanks to the mods and Billy and Alex tonight. But as usual, big thanks to you guys. Over 1,000 watching again tonight. The viewing figures are sensational for our live shows, and that's down to you. Simple as that. Thank you very much for all your support, and we will see you again at 7 o'clock tomorrow for the Arsenal preview. In the meantime, good night.
How are the lads and lasses?
Come back and check out.